This is McCook's Mr. Bill. It is an honor to have you here. I just got done with my walk down here at Barnett Park in McCook, Nebraska. I like to walk every day down here. But you're here for a story, and this is the middle of the deer season for rifle. Middle of the deer season for modern rifle, that is. That's what my wife uses and hunts with. And she's done pretty good through the years. Some 45 years she's hunted with a rifle. And she's been successful a lot more than she missed the deer. But she hadn't got a deer yet, though they've seen some deer out there at the place that she hunts, some 30,000 acres, give or take. And but the owner, he's got a standard rule that you can only shoot deer that have at least 3 points on each side, or a 3x4 would be permitted. But he'd prefer you shooting 4x4s. That's 4 points on each side, and nothing smaller. He said if you shoot all the small ones, you'll never get a big one. So he wants those smaller ones to grow up and be bigger. And if you shoot a small deer on his place, you never get to hunt there again. And that's a pretty good incentive to do what he wants you to do. With that in mind, though, I've seen a lot of deer hunts in my 70 years. I was a little kid, first time I saw a guy came out to our place north of Hamlet, about 40 miles over, 5 miles to a town they called Hamlet, and the other direction was 5 miles to the next farm. So we were out in the boonies, I think it's safe to say. But that kid, he showed up, and he wanted to hunt deer. And Dad said, it ain't rifle season. He said, I've got a bow. And that's the first time we'd ever heard of anybody hunting with a bow. So Dad told him, go down in that canyon over there. He said, deer go down there over to the Stinking Creek. That's not because it did stink, it's just the name of it, Stinking Creek. Okay. So he walked down there, and about an hour later, here he came, and he said, I got a deer. And he said, buddy, it's down there about 300 yards from the road. And he said, is there any way you could help me get that deer out of there? And it was getting dark. And so Dad said, yeah, I'll help you. So he got, and we had one of the few four-wheel drive pickups back then. No one else had them back then. It was an old one, but we had one. So it took and went down there and got that old pickup down there and loaded the deer for him, got it back and loaded it in his trunk, and off he went. And that was the first time I'd ever seen anybody use a bow. He had a recurve. Nobody had compound or anything real fancy back then. With that in mind, I've seen all kinds of hunts. A good friend of mine, that old Ron Doherty over there at Trenton, he's a cop. He was governor's 20 for shooters. He was an incredible shot with a handgun. And he got a deer at 125 paces, mind you, 125 paces, with a .44 Magnum revolver, one shot. Yeah, you wouldn't want that old boy shooting at you. With that, though, and another one about that same time period was old Dennis Kappelman. He had a .44 Magnum revolver. So anyway, old Dennis, he was a well-known outside-the-box guy, always building up cartridges because there were so many wildcats back then, and he'd build up a 38-56 cartridge. But back to the handgun, .44 Magnum, he just crawled in his haystack. He was a farmer north of Max over there, about 10 miles. And so he just had his old haystack there, and deer would come up and eat off of it. And so he shot a deer within 10 feet with a .44 Magnum. Needless to say, he didn't have to shoot him again. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, let's see, some of the other shooting that we've seen and deer hunting. I saw a guy start plinking away at a deer, and so I drove up there, and that deer had to be 700-800 yards away. I've shoot 500-yard bench rifle in my time, and I was beyond that. And he was kicking up dirt all around him, and I said, sir, you're risking just wounding the animal, and he'll get away. I said, why don't you try to, be a hunter instead of a sniper, and just walk up on him, try to get in a little bit closer or come at a different angle on a different road or something. And he wouldn't have nothing to do with it. And so I'd given my 2 cents, and I went on. Another time I was driving along on the road there, and county road, and bangity bang bang, and I came over a hill, and on the ridge there was a deer, a big old buck standing up there, probably a 4 to 6 point. and they was shooting at him. They hadn't hit him. And I drove up and stopped, and I said, hey, guys, you know, shut it down, shut it down. I said, that deer's on a ridge. You're putting rounds over the top of that ridge, more than likely. And I said, there's a house over there, farmstead over there. There's people over there. What the heck are you doing? And so sometimes you have to be kind of a pain in the butt to people when they're shooting. There's a lot of good hunters, but the few bad ones can sure make the rest of us look bad. I hope you have a good hunting season. Be safe. And hang on to your right to keep and bear arms.